Thank you for listening to SSB Wannabes. Make sure you keep up to date by following us on Twitter at SSB_Wannabes with one E. Sometimes our schedule gets the best of us and we can't record when we want to, so keep your eyes on Twitter and you'll always know when the new episode is up. Anyway, enjoy the show.
Yeah, so we had a couple vacations back to back.
Yeah. I mean,
Pretty bad timing.
Yeah, pretty bad timing because you went on vacation, so we couldn't record, and then I went on vacation, so
Yeah.
we're back now.
Did you have a good time though?
Yeah, dude, it was super fun. It was honestly just like a blur of eating and drinking in the Philippines, which is super fun. But I gotta detox now and like get back into everything.
Yeah. Oh no, I definitely know where you're at right now. Because I went out to California, had a good time there. And then the week I came back, so last week when you were out, I was just like survival mode, like just get to work, do what I gotta do. I got sick right off the plane coming back.
Yeah.
Did you get a little of that too?
I didn't get sick. I'm just jet lagged.
Right.
Like hell. So I'm in survival mode for sure right now. I got sick before I left for the Philippines. Actually, I was like super sick.
What? That sucks.
I recovered in time, but like it was just like I recovered and then all of a sudden I was like out every night, also jet lagged, and then it was crazy. I also learned my family can drink, dude. Like, so the wedding was like 300, 400 people, or like at least the reception. Yeah, I don't have a choice. I learned I have to either have a big wedding or just elope altogether. I don't have the option of a small wedding.
Sounds fun though.
My family's too big. Yeah, I know, it sounds really fun. But dude, the stats on the stats that on how much they cleaned out the bar was crazy.
Do you have it on hand?
Yeah, I do. I'm glad you asked.
Okay.
It was like 150 liters of beer, 100 bottles of wine, 50 bottles of scotch, 25 bottles of tequila.
That's outrageous.
Yeah, right?
That is ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. And we're not talking like just kids. Like this is like uncles and titas and like and everything, you know?
That's amazing.
It's so crazy.
So you're not 100%. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little Melee, man. So how do you feel like did you watch any VODs? I know it was kind of hard to make that a priority out there. Did you end up making it any sort of priority?
Yeah, I mean, I watched VODs like during the plane ride because it was like 16 hours, but I didn't really have time to watch too much when I was with the family because I was getting, I was seeing so many family members there, like, all of my extended families for the 3 families that I have, my mom, my dad, and my stepdad, that like I had to see them all within 7 days, so it was a little crazy in that sense.
Right. But
so I sort of just like used the time to relax and sort of get ready, for the upcoming summer and everything like that. I think what I ended up watching more of just for fun, because like it's hard to sort of like when you're tired and slightly hungover and dehydrated and like it sounds like I'm complaining. Like this is a byproduct of like having like so much fun over the past week, but like.
Right.
It was sort of hard to get into like the real mindset of like doing the hardcore like analysis, and maybe I could have been a little more disciplined about it, but like I'm not gonna really beat myself up too much about it. But I ended up watching a lot of Street Fighter 5 just because Capcom is doing this really interesting invitational league where it's teams of 3v3 with one character ban, and they face off against all of the other teams in a double round robin format. So it's really interesting, and so I was catching up on that, and yeah, it was super. I like got a lot of like new ideas coming back into this trip, and I sort of like trying to apply it now when I'm practicing this week with a few fests I've had so far.
Right.
So maybe not like the most traditional practice in terms of doing video analysis, but like it really felt refreshing like when I was watching it, and I like had ideas on like how to apply it to Melee. And of course, like the games are super different, but like
Right.
sort of the core fundamentals of like, oh, I guess I could be doing this more, like seeing what they're looking for and understanding like their decision making. Like I've watched so much Street Fighter now that like I don't know, I sort of had like a lot of really big moments where I was just watching it for fun and I would find myself rewinding it, being like, oh, like that's a really brilliant thing that they did there. And then trying to think about how it, or naturally just like my mind goes to like how does it apply to Melee? And
Right.
so like it was this really fresh way of sort of taking in new ideas. So like, I know I mentioned this to you before, but like I really enjoy learning and watching other fighting games because of that. Because like they operate under different rules and physics, in-game physics than Melee does. But like a lot of the core concepts in terms of how the players play and the fundamentals and the general big ideas within a certain strategy can still be applied and like transformed into a Melee, into like something that you can do in Melee.
Yeah, for sure. And it's cool because you don't have to practice the game to necessarily get that out of it, and apply it to Melee. So it's a very cool way, like, and you said it, you kind of naturally found yourself watching it. It wasn't like, okay, on today's agenda, I'm gonna watch Street Fighter 5 to get, an outside perspective. It kind of was something that naturally you watched. And I think that's really cool because, it's more productive, for example, and I hate using the word productive, especially for vacations,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm so judgmental of myself on day-to-day things that, when I take vacations, I'm very sure to not apply productivity rules to myself. But it's cool that you just kind of found yourself watching this, as opposed to very similarly watching like League of Legends, which is very hard to find anything related to Melee.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's awesome that you didn't have to like force feed yourself Melee stuff. From my perspective, or from my trip, I should say, I didn't do anything Melee, except for, it was Pound. I watched Pound Top 8, and I was in San Francisco, and it was a beautiful day out, and we were out in the sun, and I saw Mango making a run, and I was like, I looked at my girlfriend, I'm like, look, I know this is probably the worst time, and I know you do not like when I watch tournaments. I know we've had plenty of fights about it.
Oh my goodness.
I know we're on vacation, like this is our first vacation together. I know there's a
Damn.
dancing robot behind me, like just playing with kids. I know San Francisco's weird as shit, and there's so much else to be watching. But this is my vacation too.
Yeah.
And I need to be watching this right now because Mango might win Pound. And she's like, I don't know what that means. And I'm like, trust me, you will know what that means if he wins. And then he didn't win. I was like actually legitimately upset about it. Like a
Mm-hmm.
like a typical baby. But besides that, um, it was very laid back, and we did our traveling thing, and there's probably a reason why I got sick. But there's one idea I wanted to explore specifically, that kind of comes from the vacation,
Yeah,
and
go for
it is kind of a productivity question, or not even a question, like a dilemma, I should say, because, the last time I went on vacation, I did a travel blog,
it. Mm-hmm.
and it was more for myself to like remember what I did, because it's kind of hard to remember. And I only did 2 days this time, and I told myself like I will get back to this, but it's just too hard to finish this blog. And a week and a half later, I still haven't finished the third day, so I'm really far behind. And I'm just trying to explore what it is inhibiting me from finishing this project, because I think it's kind of, an essential question, like a fundamental question, of what I value and how I bring myself to work on things. Um, it's very confusing, actually, why I don't work on something very very important to me, which is a vacation that I'm not going to be able to remember, a year from now, 2 years from now. And um, I will relate it to Melee because it is, it is related, but I feel the sort of like creative inertia where if I just like slow down and it comes to a halt, it becomes so much harder to get it rolling again. And I'm really trying to explore this, and I think what it comes down to is I just need to do it. Like I just need to stop talking about it, stop thinking about it, and just get it done. But what's been happening is the last couple mornings, I think I've used Melee a like an escape from this responsibility, and I have time to do both, but for whatever reason, I'm valuing my practice every day. Like I've been very good with practicing Melee since I got back, but I haven't been good with writing or doing other projects. And I'm trying to. I'm sure you have your own thoughts on this. I know it's hard for you to put yourself into my mind exactly, but this is something that I'm kind of struggling with a little bit since getting back into like day-to-day life. And I've been wanting to bring it up with you and kind of explore the idea because it's confusing, I don't know what's really going on and how to get out of that funk.
And sort of like in the funk in terms of like getting back into the swing of Melee of like a routine, or
no, because not even Melee. That's the thing, is I think Melee is I think I've bumped it up my priority list for the wrong reason. I think that's what I'm getting at.
Okay.
Because I have been good with practice, but I haven't been good with doing other projects, and especially a project that is time sensitive, because every day I go by that I don't write this thing that I've challenged myself to write makes it that much harder to remember what I even did. And now it's getting to the point where it's going to be like 2 weeks have gone by, then it's going to be 3 weeks, a month, 2 months. And then it's just going to be another project that I've abandoned, and it becomes a shameful sort of thing. So I don't know. It's kind of a tangent, and I'm sorry if I got like derailed at all, but it's been very prominently on my mind. And it's the first time I think I've ever considered my Melee practice to be anything other than something to be proud of. It's very weird. It's different.
Yeah, no, that is really interesting. Like, especially the fact that like it's like the other stuff, and I think it's hard to say like how to sort of get out of it because like everyone does it differently. But I would say like at least like with my experience like starting it even though you were at a certain place before, you still have to rebuild it from scratch almost,
Yeah.
And like start out small and work your way to much bigger things,
Right.
I guess that's like really how I like view it, but like I think that yeah, and like I think the other question is like there's probably a like overarching like reason. Oh my god, that's the jet lag, guys.
Yeah.
So there's probably like an overarching reason that like psychologically why that is, like it could be like physically you're like feeling more tired and stuff like that. It could be like a subconscious block or something. Like I think there's a lot of like reasons that are unexplored. I think a good way to start would be like to like follow where like what your intuition or like feelings are, and then like going there in terms of trying to like understand you and the situation more.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, that definitely does. It's just like my intuition is to. That's the thing, is my intuition is to like, to get very specific, is to get out of the shower. I have this 30, sometimes 50-minute block before I need to head to work, And what I've been doing is just putting in my 20 minutes of Melee and then being like, oh, I don't have enough time to write now. But that was like, I think subconsciously I knew that was going to happen. There's no real urgency in the moment when I have the time, and then when it comes, then afterwards on my way to work, I'm like regretting it. So my intuition changes depending on if I have it's very typical standard procrastination, and it's weird because I'm not procrastinating something I have to do necessarily. Like there's no one forcing this, hardly anyone even reading this thing. It's strictly for myself and like immediate family, but it's such a weird like resistance that I'm feeling out of nowhere. And it's similar to other resistance, but with the other work I'm doing, like with this podcast, for example, I'll feel some resistance to editing, which, I mean, no surprise, is my least favorite part, but there's some like other force, this long-term force that's telling me like this is important, you should do it, and that's what kind of puts the light under my butt and gets me to do it. So I'm trying to find the urgency in a project that isn't really important at all, but then why do I care so much when I waste time and don't do it for the day? It's so strange. I know I'm kind of rambling, it's like,
yeah, but that's how people are when they're like really stumbled on something, like confused.
Right. Yeah,
like even I'm not too sure. I think it's like then like maybe expectations, like you like expect yourself to like complete it and stuff like that, and but it's a change of circumstance. Like maybe you're working slightly longer hours, or work is just a little more draining, and so you don't have essentially as much mental capacity for everything. I think when we grow up, it's a lot of like a lot of people I think fight like growing up in terms of like doing adult things, being an adult and like whatnot. But like I feel like it's a lot more like growing, like readjusting to like regrow into it,
right.
And I think maybe like I know you've had a lot of big changes with your job and everything, like getting that nice promotion and whatnot, congrats again on that. But
Thanks.
like I think maybe it's just the responsibility and like your mental capacity just isn't as much there. I think when people tend to ramble and stuff like that, like and once you start going in circles, like a lot of the time it's best to like sort of like just move away for the topic for a little bit, not just because it's like it's like when you stare at a textbook like looking for an answer and you still can't find it,
right,
and then you just keep on staring at it like hoping that it will change. I think like a lot of people I think being self-aware is important, but it's like you don't want to overanalyze for a meaning also, which is I think a issue too.
Right. I think you're spot on, and that gave me some clarity as to what I'm gonna do, which is a very specific thing, which is just focus on getting my exercise back, getting that routine back to something I'm happy with and something that I feel like I'm gaining energy out of it again. I think that will lend itself to me wanting to write this rather than me thinking of it as like a homework assignment that's past due, and through that, I think I just cracked it a little bit. It's not
That's
like
awesome.
It's not 100% solved, but you think of the worst thing that could come out of it is like, okay, maybe I'm not getting the project done right away, but at least I'm getting my exercise back. It's a better thing to focus on, and it's much easier. Like there's very little mental capacity that goes into exercise.
Yeah.
So
Plus you're back on like the Melee grind, which you weren't as into a little bit beforehand too.
Yeah, I actually feel really like I've been really enjoying my little practice sessions.
That's awesome.
Like I feel a noticeable like return to form, which is cool. I have a tournament to look forward to next Saturday. Super Smashed Out is having an Arcadian, which I'm like allowed to play in, which is pretty cool.
Wait,
I think
how are you allowed to play in that?
Bro, I don't know. I
Wait.
think they classify New York City as a micro region. So it's only top 5, and then it's all of tri-state that can't go. So I'm like,
but you used to be tri-state. I'm so confused, dude.
Don't tell Barry.
So then Young and I can go technically too.
Yeah, but I don't want you to. No, please go. No, you should definitely go. I think it's gonna be a strange Arcadian in the sense of like I've never heard of it done this way.
Yeah.
And I never thought I'd be eligible for one again. And I think it's just gonna be, I don't know what it's gonna be, to be honest.
Yeah, that's super weird and interesting.
That's the nicest way you could put it. It's weird and interesting. But I'm gonna team with Hostile Gato. That's a
classic.
Such a fun teammate, but the team comp specifically, playing a Fox Falco is I think a really good way to like slap yourself in the face.
Yeah.
Like, okay, it's competition time. Like you gotta focus.
You know what's super fun to start off with Falco and Fox?
What?
Especially on like FD, it's Falco does a high laser and you just crouch down tilt.
Ew.
Dude,
it's like
so funny.
It's gross.
Dude, it's so funny.
It's like some G Money DJ Nintendo stuff.
It's actually Javi and Twin.
Oh, pretty cool. It's a fun team comp with a lot of potential, obviously. But
oh yeah, for sure.
I'm really looking forward to that. One of my my day one A1s, as they say. So definitely excited for that. And yeah, so that's sort of what I'm looking towards the short term. What about do you have plans to go to that? Do you want to go?
So right now I'm prepping for Gommel, which is next week, but I need to figure out like some housing stuff like sort of fell through. So like I gotta figure out housing first to see like to make sure I'm not dropping too much money, because like I do have a budget that I'm like, I'm solid, but like I don't want to like have really spend too big on this because I have other trips coming up later in the year. So it's a little touch and go on whether I'll be able to go, but I'm practicing with the intention to go, of course.
Nice.
And it's because I can't really go to any other majors till Shine. So I think after Gommel, whether I go or not, like it's gonna be a lot of just quiet prep work till Shine, just sort of keeping the head down and playing Melee and working on what I can and stuff like that.
Right. Well, it's fun being in this conversation right now because it's very like abstract, our relationship with Melee this very second. We don't have anything to reflect on from recent memory, right? We haven't been to a tournament in the past 2 weeks. For me, it's
month, maybe.
Yeah, a while.
Been a while.
So there's always a strange lull when that happens, where all we really have is what we've been watching. Do you want to comment on anything like that? I know we're not really big into like following the scene and analyzing, the macro of what's going on, but I do want to talk about the Arcadian a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I think like New York probably will get a local soon enough, and like. There are a lot of good tri-state events happening like later on, like like in June there's like what is it called? I mean, there's Concrete Throwdown in like 3 weeks, Memorial Day weekend. There's also Omega 3, which I'm super excited for, and then like aside from that there's like Defend the North and everything like that. So I think like East Coast Throwdown also is apparently doing a Melee event, so that's in Connecticut. But I think the tri-state New York, specifically the New York scene's sort of in this weird place where if you're not able to travel out, you're really only playing like the guys that you play over at like the NYU bracket or whoever comes over to like a fest or two. Right. And I think sort of as that's happening, like I think people can get caught up with a like sort of a routine,
Mhm.
where they go to a tournament and then they see what they're, what's going wrong, and they go back and they train and then they go back as like a, as a placeholder. But I think as you play more in the game, like at least I'm finding it that like I can like sort of see where I stand with my play rather than like with my result. And like I think that's something that's hard to overcome at first when you're a new player because like you don't really know what you're looking for and stuff like that. But like I think that like you just have to, it's about, I think, accepting the situation. Like we're not in a place with a local right now. So like, you have to go to the tournaments that you can go to, but like even if you can't, like then you have to understand, you have to find a new way to improve and everything like that.
Yeah, if there's anyone that's listening that has a consistent local, I would say more than 20 people, you should consider yourself very lucky, and you should make every opportunity. If it's close to you, you should really take advantage while you have the chance. Um, because yeah, even if it can become a routine, if you're on top of it and you're very aware of falling into ruts or not making the most out of it when you do go and kind
Hmm.
of taking it for granted, as long as you are fully present and in your zone of improvement, like look at Bobby Big Balls.
Yeah, that's true.
Look at Bobby Big Balls.
That's true.
He has gone to I think almost every single Xanadu and I think Cave also. I'm not sure exactly. We're not from there, but he makes every opportunity to go to his locals, and he travels out, and he just won the National Arcadian. So when it comes to improvement, I think he's a shining example of the steps you should take to get to that point, and the realization that being from a strong scene doesn't mean you're from like just SoCal. Like there are strong scenes all over the place. Absent Page is a good example too. Maybe not in the present moment, but um, he's from Minnesota, but he went to every single local. He took advantage and he went to these tournaments. So it sucks for us now that it's kind of scattered and we have to find, we're more looking for regionals um, than anything else. But um, when the summer comes back, I'm going to really be taking those lessons to heart and realizing the value of land practice and at the same time not falling into that routine that can be a little detrimental. Because right now, Melee, in a broad sense, is in a really strange place. I mean, we'll talk a little bit later on with Edwin Budding, who has a really good sense of what's going on with Melee. Um, but it is difficult to find something very consistent that you can use to improve. And each scene is different in that sense. So um, I'm looking forward to whatever tournament I could find. Um, I get excited when there is a tournament I'm going to go to. And I think New York is going to be propped up with some sick locals. We have players that are just going to pop out of nowhere, and I think it's going to be really successful. Fingers crossed, not to jinx it, but um, who knows? This might be a really good summer. I just don't know when it's starting. Do you have any information? Do you have any information at all on when Hex's local is going to start?
No, I don't have any word on it yet, but like, um, I'm assuming it will be like before the summer starts at all and everything like that. And then, like, yeah, I'm sure it's gonna be before the summer, but I don't have any intel regarding it, unfortunately.
Oh man.
Yeah, we
One
really
day.
do need it to like sort of ignite everyone to come back and everything. But even during this like downtime, it's sort of like, at least within our region, like other places are grinding, but it's sort of interesting to see who are the ones that are really still sticking it out and everything like that.
Right. And I know it's not really that um it's not really that the local is necessary. It's not like I think we're past the days of Nebs where that was like all obviously having Nebulous was like super important and really made the scene thrive. But I think we're in this like postmodern Melee era where there are strong players everywhere and everyone is already like kind of a little too deep to stop at this point, and not having a local is not going to stop a single person who wants to play. Like NetPlay exists, like Uncle Punch and all these other tools exist. So the players are still out there, and there's still a huge New York scene, and so many good players that can just come and kick ass wherever a tournament shows up. But having that local, I think, is really important to get the new talent, and the new generation of people that I think, NYU is really cool because I think there are going to be more and more players sprouting out of there that become huge threats. But
oh yeah, for sure. Like they're gonna become a staple in the community.
right. But having like an outside local one with I don't think prize pool is that important, but one with a little more individuality. It's not connected. That's a terrible word for it, but something that's not connected to a school is sovereignty is the word I was looking for. I'm a genius.
Sovereignty is a good word.
Yeah, it just took me 12 seconds to come up with it. But having a tournament that brings these people in, plus the top talent, I think that is what's actually going to bring a heartbeat and going to bring growth. It's very hard to grow a scene when, like, you see it all the time on Facebook or something. People are like, "Hey, like I'm looking to get into Melee. Where can I go?" And people are like, "Here's a tournament in NYU that people have mixed feelings about how serious to take it, and everyone kind of knows each other already. Having a new local that's sprouting up and can start having real like when was the last time you saw a NYU like results thread? It's not a cornerstone of the New York scene the same way Nebs was. Not to the fault of any person. There's still huge talent showing up, but
yeah,
I'm looking for something that people can check in on and follow brackets and be like, oh shit, like this guy just got third, and that's, I think, when that shows up, it's gonna usher in a new era, and who knows what's going to happen there. Like, who knows what attention it's going to grab, especially with Hacks at the helm and with EMG sponsoring the whole thing. There's so much potential to turn this into a real, like, high production piece of content,
I think that's why it's being delayed a little bit, is because, I wouldn't say delayed because there was no promise date either for it, but
right.
You know how Hacks is, like, he'll do it right, it just takes a while.
Right.
That's the best way to describe the guy, right? Like, that, like, once when he feels like it satisfies his standards, which are, super high, of course, then it's gonna be good. We just have to wait till he's satisfied with every single detail of the tournament, right?
Right.
Like, he won't do it half-assed, and I think it's a certain merit that you have to give him, that like he loves the game that much and he loves the scene that much.
Yeah.
It's just like with his box release, right? Like, everyone's like, when are you gonna release the box? When are you gonna release the box? And it's like 2 years worth of like testing and production is what it took, right? Or like a year or something like that.
Right. He's gonna make sure it's done to a standard that most Melee players do not have, and that's why I'm in quiet anticipation, because I think that if and when this thing blasts onto the scene and people show up and make it awesome, because New York has the players to do that, it will be something that it kind of ripples through. I think it has potential to ripple nationally and start really sprouting, not just the community, because the community exists, but I'm looking at it from a content perspective of what can really come out of this, and I think it could foster more commentary talent.
Yeah,
I think
I definitely agree with that.
I think production-wise, EMG is looking to be. Maybe I'm just speculating and speaking out of my ass and being hopeful, but there's no reason why it can't be the same quality and notoriety as Xanadu.
Yeah,
You
of
know,
course.
as a tournament. There's no reason why it can't be a nationally renowned or even an internationally renowned tournament series where people come to New York and they make it a point to come to this tournament. There's absolutely no reason it can't be that, and that's why I'm actually pretty happy that it's not being rushed, because New York is kind of a volatile place to have any sort of venue for an art form for competitions like this. Like, it's so expensive that when it's done, it needs to be done right and sustainably so that it has time to grow into what it has the potential to be. But we'll see, man. I think if there's one person I'd want to be running it, it would be Hex. Having that player show up every week, it's really important to have that sort of glue for the tournament. And like, no matter, you know, it doesn't matter who can show up that day, top player wise, Hex will be there. And
Yeah.
so that's enough of a draw. You need that top player, at the helm, and I can't imagine a better New York City player than Hax.
No, I mean, there is no one more, I think, synonymous with New York than Hax himself, for sure.
Right.
And, it's weird to think about, but he is a community leader, right?
Yeah. Yep.
A very, outspoken one at that. So, I think it's going to be interesting what he sort of brings to us with this sort of new local. And, like, even like when you were talking about like other regions and stuff like that, it's like, whenever the last time like I was like sat down and was like, oh shit, like, like an SSS is tonight, or like, I haven't really been excited to watch a local in like such a long time, like, or even Nebs. Like, if I don't go to Nebs, I'll be like, all right, let me tune into Nebs, or let me tune into Aeon or something like that. And I know Long Island has different issues with their attendance and stuff like that, but like, like those are like, maybe whether we go back to it or not, those were really fun times when I could like tune in and be like, oh damn, like it's a SoCal local. Let me watch that for a little bit, or like let me see what's going on in Nebs.
Yeah, SoCal's weird because I think a lot of people put it as a region. I do this myself until I went down there and realized how big of a place it is and how terrible the traffic is. So a SoCal tournament might have like a fifth of the PR. Obviously, it's still huge, but really SoCal tournaments, for the most part, end up being 3 or 4 good players showing up. And they do a set with not a lot of passion or drama to it, because everyone knows like who can win. And like there's always a stretch where you're like, oh shit, Captain Face Roll, like he's beating everyone now. But then that wears off pretty quick when you realize that they're just going to keep winning, and then all of a sudden they're the favorite. Same thing with Army or Squid. So depending on where in SoCal, like they have so many tournaments, right, that it's almost the opposite problem. I think they still get good viewers.
You're not getting the yeah, of course they'll get good viewers,
right?
But like you're not getting the same thing as like an SSS,
right,
used to do,
or the Foundry even,
or the Foundry, yeah,
for its own, obviously its own reasons why it was so popular. But I think this has the potential to be the next big local that really starts like bringing some attention back to like, oh crap, like, okay, we got a weekly, whatever day, like Tuesday, whatever day it ends up being on. There's no reason why that time slot can't be genuinely enjoyed by a national audience, which is very exciting. And I'm going to do my best to be a part of it in whatever way I can, because I have a very strong pride to be a part of this scene. And I think, when this sprouts up, it's going to be an opportunity for everyone, for anyone who has some sort of tangential connection with Melee, whether it be content creation or commentary or TOing. If you're in the New York area, make an effort to give your best to this tournament, and it will pay you back in dividends. Even if it's just that you are, I think of Flinchy all the time, because he is like, I hate to say strictly a player because he's also like a huge homie. So we'll say that he's like a really good player, really into improvement, really nice. So if you fill those criteria, like, okay, maybe you're not making videos, but show up to this tournament and give your absolute best to like to go that extra mile where you'll play with someone worse than you and foster the people below you. And if you do that, if like 50% of people showed up with that attitude of what can I give to this tournament series, and if New York shows the hell up to this Hacks local, and it's not just Hacks, like it needs to be a community effort, and we just give our everything. Every time we can show up, we just give our best. Then this has the serious, real potential to be a famous tournament. Like, I think having the energy from Nebs, because Nebs was nationally, everyone knew about Nebs.
Yeah, everyone, people came to visit Nebs, you know.
Right. And it wasn't some magic juice in the floor of the venue, you know, it was the community. It was 100% the community. So now take that smelly, dank basement with like racist carvings in the bathroom and turn that into a legitimate venue with, you know, with all the trappings that we've discussed before. And shit, man, this is gonna be dope. Like, this is gonna be super successful. I feel it in my bones.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think like, you know, it's just New York really deserves something like that. And then it will be interesting, like, you know, sort of like, again, like who's been doing their homework, who's been grinding while everyone's been, you know, taking it a little easier because Melee's not as big, you know. I think that will be really interesting, you know, like maybe we're going through a little dark age right now with the Ultimate release and everything like that, but like, not saying that that's like a bad thing, like it's a good game and stuff like that, but like it's gonna be interesting. I think the New York scene that we knew during the Nebs era is gone, and it's the set of players are gonna be completely different now, I think.
Yeah. It's gonna be who's been grinding, who wants it.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we've been at this for a while. We also have the interview with Edwin. Which
that's right. We do have that. Yeah.
So, do you want to give some final thoughts and what you got coming up?
Yeah, I mean, like as I said, Yamal's on the fence right now for me, but I'm still gonna train like it is a thing, and then like after that, it's looking a lot farther. It's really setting your goals for the summer, knowing what to work on, you know. And there are a few like regionals that are coming up that I'm gonna be working towards. But honestly, it's good to be back stateside, you know, not having played for like a week or so. Like, you know, I got back and I immediately like hit up Panos and Miso to play and stuff like that, and that was super good. So I think, you know, it's gonna be a weird summer because it seems like there's not a lot of like hype getting generated for like all of the majors and stuff like that till we hit Shine. But like, I think that's the time where it's the easiest to get better. Not even because like you're doing anything differently, but because if you're doing something, there are gonna be other people clearly not, you know. Yeah. And I think that's, you know, this is the time not to sort of like sleep on that, you know.
Hell
like,
yeah.
You know, you can get the jump on them, so you might as well if you're serious about it.
Hell yeah, I'm with it, man.
Yeah, dude.
I'm gonna just make sure I'm getting my habits back, getting back in the groove after
start
being
small.
You start small. No, wait, that's See Me on Land. Shit.
Yeah, dude, that's on Gobble.
Oh, I'm so mad at myself.
I can't believe we're ending it. Yeah, I can't believe we're ending it like this.
I know, this is why we record in the mornings and not 9:30 at night.
I know, it's so
but I'm gonna be doing my thing, getting everything back in order. I got my family in town, and my nephew is the best. He's 1 and 1.5.
That's cute. That's hella cute.
Oh my god, he's so fun. He's learning words and he's starting to recognize my face.
Ooh, that's the best.
It's the best. But, you know, Melee's still more important than him. No doubt.
As our last episode is.
No doubt. Melee's Melee's better than my nephew. Anyway, man, this has been great.
Yeah, dude, it's glad to be back. We'll start
Great to
shooting
be
on a
back.
regular basis now, finally. So
Yeah.
can't wait, dude.
Hell
Talk
yeah.
to you next week.
Yeah, and
Oh, yeah, well, you have the interview, but you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
coming up next is an interview with Edwin Budding, and we'll talk soon, man.
Yeah, talk to you later, JD. Peace.
So, we have the author of the long-awaited Book of Melee. You might know him from Melee Stats. You might know him from his weekly Monday Morning Marth blog series. I'm so excited to have him. We have Edwin Budding on the show today. Will, how excited are you?
Dude, I'm super excited. I honestly can't believe, it's really awesome that you're our first interview. I'm actually super excited about it.
Thank you. You guys are too kind. Thank you so much. It's very, very sweet of you. I
Yeah.
hope you guys enjoyed the book also.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. Yeah, so I slammed that. Like, I was on a plane on the way back when you sent it to me. Like, you got it just in time for the Wi-Fi to
Sweet. All right.
to not interrupt. And then
Clutch.
got a quick download and just like destroyed it. I just read through it, and I really loved your style. I don't want to pop off too much before Will has a chance to add his comments, but like when I was reading it, it just took me back to, I mean, once I caught up to
Yeah.
when I actually started watching, being in the scene, it just took me back to where I was watching each one of those tournaments, and it just like I felt I just revisited exactly how I felt. It was
That's
awesome.
the goal, man. That's the. So I just before we talk about any further, I just kind of want to talk about the three audiences I had in mind for this book, and
Cool.
and you know I spent a long time working on it. I started working on the book in late 2016, so I had already been a part of Melee for quite a bit some time. I TO'd in college, competed in the Melee games and everything. So a lot of the book is also still near and dear to my heart. So when people talk about it as history, it's almost kind of it's almost unbelievable because it feels like just yesterday that I was playing a crew battle, you know?
Yeah.
Sorry, you're right. I remember what I was going to say. So the three audiences I had in mind for this book were doc kids that wanted to that wanted to learn more about Melee history and maybe get something a little extra that the documentary didn't cover. And then the second group were the super long timers, the ones that just wanted a nostalgia trip to remind them of the good old days. And then the third group that I really wanted to market this book toward were the kind of people that would watch Super Major Top 8s maybe every now and then, watch GR Smash videos, but in the end, like, Melee would be their fifth or sixth favorite time investment. Not even hobby, just time investment. My goal in this book for that group in particular was to convince them that Melee shouldn't be their fifth favorite hobby. It should be their first, or their second, or their premier time commitment. And I really hope that by showing that other people care, and through the heavily public nature of the community and the game itself, that doesn't really need any sort of hyperbole or any expansion. It just is, and it's so accessible. And I took a deliberately very documented approach to writing this book, and I hope you guys enjoyed that.
Yeah, I super enjoyed reading this book. Like, I came in, like in the doc kid era as well, and like, I definitely was like really excited learning like more of the details about the past that the doc didn't cover. But also, like, I guess the biggest takeaway for me, or that I enjoyed the most, was it like really sort of felt like, a lot of this, like, outside of documentaries, you learn it from like hearsay, or like, like I'll be talking to like someone like DJ or Warrior Knight and be like, oh yeah, like, this used to happen whatsoever, like in the East Coast. But like now that it was like all written and I could read it like sequentially, it just like felt so much more real as like a community member. Like, oh yeah, like I'm a part of this super sick community, and like also like sort of made me realize that like, Melee obviously now is like still alive, still going, and it's like this sort of like living story, which is sort of weird. Like, this is like almost like, I don't know how you feel about it like as a historian, but like obviously the story isn't fully fully done yet because Melee's still going.
It almost feels as if like right now in Melee we've opened a new book. That's the crazy part, you know, like and I think one of my favorite chapters to write of the book was actually the epilogue, because I go into that. One of my goals in talking about the book was not like that it was some conclusive rags to riches story, although that there are similarities. I wanted to talk about the one of the things in the book I wanted to talk about were the pitfalls of growth, also the moments of hesitance, the almost like stagnation and plateau that Melee seemed to hit at different points, including now, even including in the esports era when we still had to struggle through things like well, I shouldn't say the esports era, but we still like the community still had a lot of problems between rule set debates, Leffen getting banned from the United States, which just seems like yesterday to me. You know, like it's not as simple as rags to riches. The main thing I wanted to convey through the heavily public nature of the documentation I did was basically that Melee, above all else, it's just always been about people loving the game and always loving the freedom that being a part of the community gave them, as well as the game itself, obviously.
Yeah, and I think you really captured that well. And just kind of back to your point about you documenting it and purposefully taking that tone, I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't think it was going to be like that. And at first it was, I was a little bit like, okay, when's he going to start adding some flair to this? When's it going to get like that? And I realized that I didn't want that at all. I didn't want to I think you put it like, you don't want to tell them how to feel about all these things happening. You will feel how you're gonna react to it. And you mentioned the epilogue being your favorite part. I got the sense that the epilogue was your favorite part to read or to write, because it was one of my favorite parts as well.
Yeah.
Where you got to really express how you felt without limitations. And so I'm wondering, just as one of my first questions, if you have another book planned.
Oh my God.
I know you're
Oh my, yeah.
Okay, look. That's not what I meant. I'm saying your next, I hope you're gonna keep doing this, because I love your blog. I love how
Thank you.
You do something that me and Will do, which is just write about your experience. So it's not just things you do day to day. You also are, filtering and interpreting things that are going on in the scene and your own opinions on it.
Yep.
And that was, your book didn't have that, again, on purpose. I'm wondering if you have plans for another project that might be a little more personal, or might be something that you want to show your own emotions through. Is that something on the horizon? I know you just released a book, not trying.
Yeah, no, I understand. No, I think there's definitely maybe I'm not really sure, because the thing is, in my mind, there's two types of Edwins, right? Or this probably sounds so silly, but like,
no, go for it, dude. I'm
there's
super interested with that.
There's like historical smash narrator Edwin, right? The stuffy, like keeping himself out of it historian. Probably a slight Marthmain bias if you like read between the lines, but mostly just like very straightforward, to the point, not like stating opinions as much as suggesting them and trying to like subtly show people what to feel. And then there's like the sports writer me, which I think comes across in my weekly columns, which is more like the funny thing is, I think someone interviewed me about this a while ago, about what I saw myself, or how I saw myself as a Melee analyst or as in Melee stats or whatever. And the funny thing is, like, I don't think I'm a particularly great analyst, and I don't think I have like a natural talent for writing as some other people in the scenes. I just think that if I were to guess why people read and support my work and why I'm like very grateful for it, is I think it's my honesty and upfrontness, even in things that I'm wrong about or that I may not be informed about. I try to never act like I'm above something, like I'm above the game's history or that I'm above its players. And I really, in both approaches, I try to convey a deep sense of empathy for the subjects I talk about. It actually, if I can just like side note for a second, one of the things that really bothers me is that people I think people read my writing and they just think that I don't play Melee at all, which is so funny because it's like, no, I swear I TO'd, I competed in TMG.
You have a sick Marth. We played a gang. I remember that we played a few times, but like you have a sick Marth.
Yeah, no, that was that gang. That gang wasn't good for me. I went like 2-2 or something. This year's gang was great though. I totally not fluked my way into a top 64 through the ladder system. So
me too.
Oh hell yeah, let's go. Ladder top 64 guy. No, it's like a running gag that I'll bring it up with like Melee Stats friends and stuff.
Well, we were talking about this, right? Like 16 people made it through the ladder and 9 made it past losers round 1. Or something like ridiculous like that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, right? It was super crazy.
But yeah, you know what I mean? Like people just that was honestly one of my longest goals for a while, that like I could get top 64 or like probably a lot higher would be like my goal, but I could do really well, and balancing my competitive goals with my writing goals was its whole struggle that I had to deal with for a while. And now that the book is complete, you know, at some point I would love to go back to competing or go back to TOing at some point.
Oh yeah, dude.
That's a part of me that's a part of me that only Yukon and Connecticut know about. Not so much other people. Which is
dude. I remember you were in like one of the old Yukon videos that, you know, Doom showed me and everything like that. I know.
Oh, you saw my terrible combo video? Oh my god.
Dude, yeah.
Dude, my terrible combo video is so funny.
Dude, I still love the music choice in it. Fire.
Dude, do you love the I'm better? Okay, we'll talk about this later. There's so much lore behind like local lore behind this. It's so dumb, but
well, actually, that sort of brings up a question I had, not about, you know, the book itself, but, you know, as someone as a Melee aficionado, historian, sports writer, right? Like, what sort of like, was there anything that like local lore or whatever that wasn't mentioned in the book that like you really love, like that, you know, like that you really love, you know, about, and it's like very small things. Like I'm a big soccer fan, and like I think of like certain games where it just didn't mean anything, but like something crazy happened, and you're like, that has to be like top 3 for me.
Yeah, so there's so much stuff with this, like with Yukon lore, Connecticut lore, like New England stuff. Some of it I really don't think I can talk about it here. But I will mention one thing that's relevant for Europe, and you guys might have caught this in a footnote. But the legend goes that at Genesis 2, the Europeans were so confident that Armada was going to win the tournament that they organized a limousine, because they figured that Armada would pick up the tab, and that he was going to win the event and just have the prize money anyways. Now, there's a caveat to the story. Armada claims that this is not entirely true, and he claims that the only reason that the Europeans got the limo at Genesis 2 was because it was the most efficient way to transport everyone to the venue and back. But I actually hate the fact that he killed the legend like that, and I'm pretty sure I mentioned it as a footnote in the book anyway. But it's a hilarious story. I wish so bad that it was true. Like couldn't Armada have just been like, yeah, I was so sick that my whole continent knew I was gonna destroy everyone.
That's the equivalent of like mastering a really flashy tech that's actually useful like 2% of the time. That is amazing. I'm so happy. I'm so happy that story exists.
The limousine one's one of my favorites. The only thing, another one of my favorites I believe I mentioned in the book is that Mango and Lucky were basically so fearsome in doubles that they went to a SoCal tournament one. They showed up like an hour and a half late, but of course this was like the Brawl era, so nobody gave a shit. There was no like standards of professionalism or anything. And the minute Mango and Lucky showed up, everyone at the tournament just instantly DQ'd and said, we're not going to waste time. Like, just take the first prize money.
Wow.
I remember, I think Mango saying that story. That is definitely a hilarious story, for sure.
I think there are so many stories out there, like so many, and this isn't even getting into the degenerate stories. Like these are some highbrow Melee lore right here. But I would love to. I think you reached out on Twitter, right? You reached out like
Yeah, I think
any
I did.
influencers out there, any Melee community figures that want to share some stories. Like, man, you're just nonstop with these brilliant ideas. I would love to just read a book of essays written by different people.
I mean, Scene was kind of doing something like that. And shout out to Oates and Ipangu for doing it. I actually think Oates is probably like one of the best in terms of like prose and control over language. I think Oates, Marco, he is one of the, if not like the most impressive writer.
He wrote that 4-part article about Alex 19, right? Or Norwalk, right?
I think so. Oates is phenomenal.
That was a really good article.
I wish I could write like him.
I gotta check that out. Shout out to Oates. But speaking of writing, I actually had a question about that.
Yep.
About like your process. Like, what do you do to prepare to write? How do you get into the flow? Whenever you sit down, whether if that's your weekly column or for the book, like what do you need to do? Because I'm a writer too. I'm very interested in the process of people needing to get into that method. It's always different.
So in this case, like because I had done all my like Smash history blogging and stuff before, I knew I had pretty good content to work with. So as far as the book was concerned, the public documentation that's there really tells the story in and of itself. But there was so much I had to cut out of the book or basically choose not to include because it's just so expansive. My main inspiration for writing was actually not any like I was inspired by sports writing, of course, but above everything else, I was actually inspired by A World of Ice and Fire, which is from one of my favorite fantasy book series, A Song of Ice and Fire, also known as Game of Thrones, the TV show. But I was really inspired by the way that George R. R. Martin explains the expanded universe of Westeros and all the other places. So I always thought to myself, like my approach in writing this book was, it wasn't even to treat Melee like a sport with its own results, and I wouldn't even say it was like it was treating Melee as an industry. I want to treat Melee as a fantastical universe with its own figures, with its own like little bit of lore, but also have like that theme, the fantasy, like the absurd unbelievableness of Melee contrasted by just its bare bones public knowledge. You know, anyone can watch the Chill and Rap online. But if you told someone that there was a history of Smash lore that is all on YouTube or at least documented in Smashboards, they wouldn't believe you. It'd be absurd to explain to someone that Smash Rap itself has its own like you could literally make a top
shout
10
outs
Smash Rap. Yeah, I love your New York City power rankings one. That was I love your line about Dark Tooth's full hop nairs. That always gets me every time.
Thanks. But yeah, you're totally on point. There's so much that just it's a little surreal. It's unbelievable. It's so unique.
But it's all public. It's all highly public. Literally anyone, like you don't have to be a historian to find out about these things. You just consume it by virtue of being into Smash, and hopefully, like above all else, hopefully playing the damn game. But like, you know, you would like these are things that are just it's so absurd that it's real life. You know that I know it's the cliche, but if you explained it to someone with no idea of Smash, you know, like the truth is stranger than fiction. You know what I mean? But
right.
Yeah, of course. So I know you mentioned the limo, and if it is the answer to this question, that's cool too. But like when you were doing that research, right, you're mentioning that it's so, you know, it's all accessible to the public and everything. When you were doing your research to get the information for your book, what fact like surprised you the most? Like where you were just like, no way, like holy shit, I can't believe it's like that. Or did you ever have a reaction like that?
Honestly, the thing was not in the process of writing the book, because a lot of like my Melee history work, like research and like my work on it, you know, where there was the top 10 of every year and like the year in reviews and the Cinderella runs stuff, like it all just came so naturally, and I already had a pretty solid foundation for being part of the scene for a while, so nothing like really stood out as much as like the implications of things that I never thought about. Like I think one thing that gets really understated is Mango basically playing Melee for a living and as his only opportunity out of his like social environment and circumstances. Like that just gets forgotten about, that this kid from Norwalk, like not a very well like funded, or maybe not. I'd have to look up statistics to say, but like not like it's not Weston, Massachusetts. Like he had a tough upbringing, and like that just never gets questioned by people or explored further, which is absurd to me. Like Mango's literally said that if it weren't for Melee, he might be in a gang or something. So it's just crazy to me that someone like him could just become the most successful Smash personality in the world. It's absurd, and it never gets talked about. That specific thing just never gets delved into. Another thing that if I can just mention another thing, I know we're
dude,
running
this
a
is
little.
no, this
We're
is your show, dude.
Not running long. This is
You're the man of the hour.
So one other thing was just how brilliant each of a lot of the players that I document or frame chapters through, they're so brilliant in other areas. Like, so I mentioned Mango sort of being someone like who is fairly resourceful for growing up in disadvantaged circumstances. But even people like PP and Hungrybox, they weren't people that just did nothing all day. They were strong. Like PPMD played soccer, he ran, he got some of the best grades in his high school. Hungrybox was a singer, he played piano, he also got straight A's. Like these are really accomplished. Like the only person that fits the mold of like nerd in the stereotypical sense is King, and even then, like he goes through so much development over the course of Melee history, like his own mid-career crises with Brawl and Smash 4, him disappearing from the scene for a while. One of my favorite, it's so talked about all the time among casual viewers that it gets a little annoying sometimes. But like honestly, like okay, so Will, you were asking about things that surprise me. What surprised me is how like the reasoning behind things that appeal, like that are so entry level appealing. Like let's take King 6-0ing Leffen at PAX Prime. This is something that like even the most standard like Smash Bros reader will know of and love. But like the actual history behind it is so sick. Like it never hit me because at the time when I lived through it, it was annoying to hearing about it every now and then, having people be like, oh, this is the Return of the King 2.0 or whatever dumb shit, like. But like looking back on it, this is a time when Leffen had just overcome his biggest kryptonite and beaten him like so many times in a row, dude. That's nuts. He beat him. Do you remember Super Smash Con? He destroyed him.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that was
rough. Fox dittoing him at Smash Con. He lost on FD. Like Leffen talked so much good. I love Leffen, but he talked so much good. And King came back at PAX Prime. Like I didn't think Leffen played very well, but he 6-0'd him. Like that's such a sick story. King was on the verge of like, he didn't know what he wanted to do with his life. He didn't know like Smash Bros. Melee. He was in his like late 20s. It was almost like a quarter life crisis, and he just was motivated to come back. Like it's such a sick story.
I love that you brought that up specifically because that was one of the, like I was pretty much paying attention to like since I started in the scene until recent, like now. I've been very much involved, but every now and then I miss a tournament or two. That was one of the tournaments I just kind of, for whatever reason, missed. Like at the time I heard about it, I was like, oh, King won, sick. Like, oh, 6-0, okay, cool. But reading it in context and having everything laid out, like the wins before, bing, bing, bang, what Leffen was saying, it's hard not to three-stock King. And then like that was probably one of my favorite parts of your book. And I think every person reading it is going to have a different part that's like that. Because I was like, oh shit, I cannot believe I was getting hype on the plane. I'm like, dude,
because you knew what was
like
going to
Return
happen.
of the King. Yeah. My God, I'm getting hype now just reliving that. So it's like, that's why I think this book is such a good time for it. Even though, of course, Melee is not going to be done as a story. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's so much there. Just to bring it back to like how excited I am for this book, but just to have everything there. Anyone who's been involved in Melee at least a little bit, and if anyone's listening to this podcast, I'm sure they're involved in Melee. Or unless it's my dad too, but whatever. But
he can read the book too. His spot for him.
If he's that supportive, he'll read my podcast's guest's book. It's so cool having everything contextualized properly and just laid out. And even then, even in one of the hypest parts of Melee's history, you kept it cool, man. You just laid it out bare. You gave me the good details. and then it was on to the next cool part. Like it was so well paced. Like I just want to say well done again.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I gotta agree with that.
If I could mention another story that I think
go for it
in the book, I think the circumstances and the funny thing is I'm not even sure how much I entirely believe it because I had heard the story so many times before that it was absurd from numerous sources, and it's the one where before MLG Las Vegas when Chu talked, basically Chu was telling everyone that he wanted to wobble, he wanted to practice it and use it to win the tournament free. How randomly before the tournament, Isaiah basically like called a shot in the Smashboards thread and just I've heard a bunch of different versions of this of what he said. But the one I've heard the most was that he apparently just wrote the words, "I'm going to beat Daniel" on Smashboards. And then like whenever people just asked him in person about it, he would just laugh and be like, "Yeah, I'm going to beat Daniel." And then when they played at MLG Las Vegas, he like 3-0'd him like double 2-stock, 3-stock or something like that. And this was someone that like Isaiah struggled against for a lot of his career. So him just randomly destroying Chu is one of the funniest tidbits of the book.
That's so crazy. Like, yeah, that is so cool. Like, especially with like the humble call out.
Yeah, because Chu was also like talking that good-ish before the tournament, you know, because he was like gonna wobble and everything, and he just got destroyed.
Do you think the Melee scene needs a little more of that trash talk? Do you think there's something that's kind of different now than it was maybe even 2013 or pre-brawl or
I think that I will say the scene, as immature as it seems at times now, I think that a really big factor behind why it was almost pretty hard to write about the early MLG era in a way that was interesting was because the scene was so much younger. So like, there's only so much you can do to make Chudat switching teams in a gunbound game and betraying Chillin. And there's only so much you can make of mostly teen drama, like there are compelling nuggets in there. Like I think that like Ken being wanting to be an illustrator and balancing that with Melee and like his whole depiction as this like very human but also broody art guy is definitely like there, and it's compelling. But I will say that, or again, like I said before, I think age plays a big role. Like the scene's just grown up, social standards have changed for the better, and it's just that it just gives people's perspectives. Like look at Fiction Ginger. Like I'm not like I think that is a really lame beef ultimately, because the thing is like it's played for both people's brand. You want to know what's not played for brand, or at least not overtly? Shroomed versus Neighborhood P. You guys ever watch that match? That's a good example of regional lore that I don't think I had in the book.
I do remember that. Oh, I think this was like a pretty.
It was
famous
on the
VOD,
Scar.
right?
It was on the Scar and Toph show. They mentioned it, I think. Before.
Yeah, it's a SoCal NorCal beef for like $50 or something. I forget the exact details. I probably should remember the exact details. I should. Oh man, I'm losing my credibility right now. It's okay, guys. I promise that Stream versus Neighborhood P is a thing.
Would you say that's your favorite? Well, I guess there's a lot of.
There's too
many.
Neighborhood P could have his own like chapter of just absurd stories. That's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of like really funny online beefs, like the thread where basically like half of SoCal got banned on Smashboards is a really funny one. There's a lot of, oh my god, there's so much tri-state lore I could go into, but I feel like it would actually be like low-key messed up if I brought it up on the show. I'll tell you guys what I'm thinking after, but
all right, that sounds
good.
Sounds good.
There's so much funny New York and Connecticut lore. Even New England, there's a lot of really really good stuff.
Yeah, I'm just grinning ear to ear. I can't wait to hear this. I
want you to write about actually, Edwin, and you'll laugh when I say it, dude. A small history on the infamous Yukon dude.
No, God, Yukon. I swear, dude, we had such a good scene for so many years. People literally
filthy.
Yeah, people literally like we were filthy when I was bad. Like we were so good, and people just remember us for getting dunked on, and like there's three different moments. There's obviously the Crow comeback. There's the 12 stock TMG New England Finals comeback. There was KU'd, our Luigi player, getting taunt spiked against the same team, UMB. And then the third one, my least favorite bit of regional lore was when Warrior Knight came to UConn and literally like 2-0'd and 3-0'd every single one of our top 5 players.
Damn, I did not know that.
Oh yeah,
I've heard Matt complain about Warrior Knight, but
yeah,
I understand why now.
that's because Matt got beat so bad by Warrior Knight's Bowser and Bowser Peach that Matt went Ganon in the second game of Grand Finals and forfeited third or something.
Dude, that's crazy. Do you know that like half of UConn is from my like?
Yeah, I know. Keith Robichaud's my boy. Shout out to Crunchmaster. He and I actually like used to not get along at all because we were like rivals for the 3 spot. Like I had a whole like call out and like money match drama with him, and we caught up again like a few months ago when I found out that he streamed Mario 10 like super like Aces or whatever it's called, and I saw him at Genesis. We caught up, and I just ran him out, and I was like, "Yeah, remember our really stupid beef? Like, wasn't that so pointless?" And we both just kind of laughed about it. We're like, "Yeah, we were both being idiots. Like, it was actually so unnecessary." But like, it was important for our growth.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and for context, JD, the UConn like all like half of their TMG crew, like I grew up with, because like I grew up with them from like elementary school to like middle school and high school.
Weird.
Yeah, Keith is like one of my best friends in the scene.
Yeah, Keith was at my like 8th grade birthday party, dude.
Dude, Keith will probably be at my wedding coming up. like, he's sick.
Yo, he just one up the shit out of you. Just saying.
I know.
No, I'm not one out.
Man, now you got some beef with Will.
Yeah, see me in Brooklyn, dude.
Dude,
Brooklyn
I'm so
Kumite too.
I'm so down, Will. Fox is my best matchup. I'd love to play.
Yo, let's play. Yeah. I'll hit you up. Last fun fact before we get back to your amazing book and everything. You know, Matt just ran with the nickname Slick for me since middle school. No one ever called me Slick. No one else ever calls me Slick.
You're not a Slick.
But to this day, when I see him, he goes, Slick.
No, wait.
Matt.
First off, you are not Slick. You are not a Slick, and that's not it's just not who you are. No offense should be taken. But if you do nickname someone Slick, you don't shout it out like that.
Dude, I'm imagining his voice. If you know his voice, it's infinitely
Slick. It would be Slick or like Slick Willie Wasmer.
You guys are not giving me a good impression of this guy. You guys are not making me like this
guy.
Matt's
interesting. He's a funny guy.
He's a homie. Shout outs to Matt. I'll tell him to watch.
I'll say one funny story about Matt. Okay, and I'm pretty sure that. Should I mention this publicly? Yeah, why not? Okay, so I'm not gonna name names, and Will, you'll probably know immediately who I'm talking about. There's a player who's now one of my friends. Okay, he's one of my friends. I think he's actually hella sick now. But back when he was on the come up, he used to be really annoying to play against, and he used to be like a really big. He kind of still is a salter, but he used to be like really unbearable about it. And he's grown up a lot and like.
UConn player?
No comment. I'm just gonna.
Okay. I have ideas.
Yeah. So, and he used to play like a really annoying character and everything.
Okay. That's all I need to know.
Yeah. So back when he was getting a lot better, he was beating a lot of our like mid, like basically everyone just ranked beneath like me. So he was beating like our 5, 6 and beneath just like consistently. So one time on the way back from Hog, like it was kind of a running joke that he was secretly going to be the best at UConn. This is before he actually got good. And Matt, like we were kind of just like memeing, like, oh, this player is going to be the best in the whole world and everything. Like he's going to rule the world or whatever. And Matt just cuts the gig and he's like, oh my god, I'm sick of you guys talking about it. He's not good. Like he's literally bad. Yeah. He plays a terrible character. Like you guys think he's gonna be sick? Absolutely not. And of course, like we're like nervously laughing, and we all just go because like this guy's come close to beating me in tournament 4. He's beaten everyone else in the car, and I go, no, of course he's got ways to go, and Matt just looks at me and goes, no, dude, I know what you guys are gonna do. You're gonna drop me off at Gary or wherever he was living at. He's like, you guys are gonna drop me off. You're all gonna look at each other and be like, no, but seriously, he's good, right? And then like, it's just.
He's
Dude,
good.
Matt,
I'll tell you now, he's good.
No,
he's
now
good.
now he's the player we're talking about is actually so sick.
He's filthy. But yeah.
But back then he was but my bastard child. But that's a story for another time.
Of course.
So Edwin, I know you have another spot on your tour coming up tonight. Your little media tour. So I want to just give you a little speed round. Will, is that cool if I just give him a speed round real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, speed round. I like it.
So here's the speed round. I'm going to list off the top tier characters. And you're going to tell me your favorite player with that character. All right?
All right.
I like
that. I like. Can it be like? Can I talk about favorite players across all levels, or does it have to be like?
You can do whatever you want.
Yeah,
I'm gonna cap it at 3.
If he says Fox and you say Wasabi, I'm not gonna argue it. Okay.
Look, Wasabi. Look. When I say Fox, you're gonna say JD Wasabi is implied, and then you could say your favorite character. Your favorite.
You aren't gonna bring up my Fox, the soy boy.
I've never played the soy boy. Oh my god.
Boys. We got
sorry.
We got some speed round to do. Okay. Yeah. Ready? I'm just gonna go top my dome. I'm probably gonna forget someone. Okay. Ice climbers.
Ice climbers. I'm gonna say Wobbles, Fly Amanita, and shit. Let me think. Hold on. Who's the third? Third favorite.
Speed round. That's all you get. Sheik.
Okay. God, I hate Sheik. Swedish Delight, Captain Face Roll, and Plup.
Okay, Marth.
Oh, jeez. Music King, PPMD, and Stango. That's
nice.
Falco.
PPMD, Mango, and Lint God.
Nice. Ooh.
I'm literally naming just first people that come up in my mind.
That's good. That's the point of the speed round.
Yeah.
Like him, Captain Falcon.
Gatsu, S2J, and Wizrobe.
Cool.
I'm giving really generic answers. Oh my god.
It's all right. Well,
that's good.
Fox.
Oh jeez. Mango, Absent Page Crush.
Oh,
wait, sorry. Can I change Can I change Crush to Hacks? Those would be my 3.
All right. Nice.
Okay. Peach.
Armada, Court, and
wow, that's a good one. That's a good one, Court.
Nice. Am I forgetting? I'm forgetting one character, aren't I?
Puff.
Yeah, Puff.
Puff. Okay, this makes absolutely no sense, but I'm gonna go. The first 3 people I thought of were Hungrybox, Dark, and Snowy.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you just gave Snowy a fresh shout out.
No, Snowy's hell. I think I thought Snowy because he had a really good king last weekend where he beat Swedish and Cobalt. And for a while, I thought he was just kind of good against Fox because he got world-class practice in that matchup. And I sort of like just assumed he was bad in other matchups because when I say bad, I mean like relative to being the best in his city. But he got so much better. It's pretty exciting seeing where he goes from here.
You don't just beat Swedish and Cobalt. You got to be good.
Yeah, especially Swedish has come close to being H-Box.
Sounds like a shout out for the week, JD.
Snowy? No, he beat one of our best players. I don't like him. Just kidding. Edwin, it was such a pleasure having you. I hope you enjoy the rest
thank you so much, guys. Buy the Book of Melee or download it for free. I don't care. Just get the Book of Melee. I promise, guys, it's sick. Thanks, JD. Thanks, Will.